All right. Welcome to the weekly Family IT Guy Q&A. We're going to take questions and comments and discuss the news and see what's going on in the world of the internet today, especially when it comes to the internet being connected to kids. And maybe we'll talk about some AI stuff and see what we get into. So got folks joining from YouTube and Facebook and Instagram. So let's see who all we've got joining here. Greenish 204. Any help for Android users? Yes, happy to help. I'm working on some products that will help specifically, if you got your kid an Android phone, how exactly do you go about locking it down? The short answer is that there's a program called Family Link, and put a comment here if you're already using Family Link, but Family Link is the first layer of the security onion. You always want to have multiple layers. Another thing to look at in addition to Family Link is what's called a DNS filter. And that is something that basically can be used to filter which websites the phone can visit. And so a program that I like for that is called NextDNS. So I'd recommend checking them out. So those are a couple of good places to start. A couple things to note with Android is I often recommend to people, especially for younger kids, but even for teenagers, that you disable the camera on all of their internet connected devices. And then if they want to have a camera, they should have one that is not connected to the internet, because an internet connected camera is a tool for predation. That's one of the fastest growing crimes around the world right now is sextortion, where criminals will take advantage of kids and bribe them into doing horrible things. And the way that they do that often is with the camera. They convince the kid to take pictures of themselves. And so all that to say, I like to disable the camera on internet connected devices. On Android devices, it is not a consistent setting. It's hard to do. As opposed to like on an Apple device, you can turn the camera off altogether. But in my testing, when I've disabled the camera on an Android device, I'll open up Google Meet or something, and then the camera will still work. So it's not a comprehensive setting. So I hope that's helpful. Another thing too, Android, iPhone, everybody, any internet connected device is, I think one of the most important things is don't bring it into the private areas of the home. So don't bring any internet connected device into a bedroom or a bathroom. And I think that's important for kids, but it's also important for adults, not only for our own mental health, but to lead by example and demonstrate the way for our kids. So I think adults should charge their devices outside of their bedrooms at night and tell their kids why, and then have the kids follow suit. So hope that's helpful too. Let's see what else we got. Johnny Farrell said, am I right in thinking that Apple's latest software update reset parental control filters? App Store became available again for my child, and a number of other content changes. Johnny, it's interesting that you ask that, because I get asked that a lot, and that seems to be a common thing, and I don't get it. I don't understand why that happens, because I can tell you the way that these systems are built inside of companies like Apple is they go through very thorough quality assurance processes. So anytime Apple updates anything, they test all the stuff to make sure that nothing breaks and to make sure that settings migrate from the old version to the new version without changing. Because a setting that just randomly changes on people is a good way to make people upset or frustrated or confused. And when it comes to parental controls, that's actually dangerous. But this is a very common report amongst Apple devices. And it's disappointing, because the parental controls themselves, when they're working, and I'm curious to hear what you think, if you agree with what I'm about to say, but I find them to be very good, very comprehensive, very effective, generally tamper-proof, especially the latest versions with iOS 26.6, which is currently out. But this thing where the settings changes, it's crazy because nobody has time to keep on top of that stuff, and it adds overhead to an already difficult scenario. So that is something that I hear a lot, and it's a bummer. Globetrotting Minis said hi from Brisbane. Hello, hello from Idaho, USA. I went to Brisbane once for an hour. I gave a presentation there when I was working with BlackBerry back in, I don't know when that would have been, 2011, 2012. Flew down there to talk to some developers. I didn't even get to see the place. It was at night. Landed at night, gave a presentation, and then left. So that was a bummer. Oh, Greenish said you're using Family Link. Yeah, good. Let's see who else we've got here. All kinds of people joining today. Hello, everybody. I've prepared some. I've done and looked up the news a bit. Prepared some news articles for us to read through, and I've gathered together 14 of them. And the first one I'll glance at really quick says that jury selection starts today in Oakland, and that state attorneys general are taking Meta to trial over Instagram and Facebook. And Meta spent Monday trying to stop it and lost. Well, good. I'm glad they lost. And the summary of the article says that jury selection began Wednesday, August 12th in federal court in Oakland, California. Opening arguments are set for August 18th, so that's next Tuesday. And the trial is expected to run several weeks. The suit, filed in 2023 by attorneys general nationwide, alleges Meta designed and deployed features on Instagram and Facebook that drive excessive use by children and teens, then misled the public about the risks. On Monday, the Ninth Circuit dismissed Meta's Section 230 appeal as premature and denied its emergency motion to stop the trial. The same ruling leaves roughly 2,400 federal addiction lawsuits standing. So I have some thoughts on that. This lawsuit is very interesting because I find that it's being executed on some shaky premises. I think overall, I'm not a fan of Meta. I think they're evil. I would like to see them get sued out of existence and for that precedent to get set for all of their peers in the space so that if you knowingly harm kids, you will be penalized by the market and in this case by the government. Interestingly, though, it says that the lawsuits allege that Meta designed and deployed features on Instagram and Facebook that drive excessive use. I don't think, on its face, I don't think excessive use is a problem because it depends what you're using. Now, in this case, it turns out, and maybe it's just the framing of the way this is written was just poor, but it's exposure to an addictive algorithm. Addictive algorithms cause mental and emotional health problems. So it's not an excessive use problem on its own. It's exposure to addictive algorithms, and then it's Meta knowing that their addictive algorithms harm children and yet not stopping when they found out. So their internal whistleblowers have said that Meta has internal research showing that they harm kids. And supposedly, and look, I don't know, I don't know any of these people, so I don't know what's actually true, but supposedly, according to these whistleblowers, the information flowed up to Mark Zuckerberg, and then he declined to stop the practice that was hurting kids. I hope that's not true. It is alleged to be true. So maybe we'll find out from the court cases. I mean, this stuff has been said under oath by people, so it could be true. And then the other thing is it says that Meta was trying to appeal using Section 230. My understanding, if I recall correctly, Section 230 in the US makes it so that if you operate a technical platform that distributes information, like a social media platform, that you are then not responsible for what goes on that platform. Like it's basically seen as like a media outlet. And so Meta is trying to use that to get out of this lawsuit, which I think it's not the it's not just the content that's on their platform. So I'm glad that didn't work, because it doesn't seem like a valid Section 230 argument. It's not the content that's problematic on its own. It's the fact that the content is shoved into the face of young users in a way that sends them down unhealthy rabbit holes. Thus the whole addictive algorithm thing. So it says that it leaves roughly 2,400 federal addiction lawsuits standing. Meta apparently internally estimates their risk at $1.4 trillion from this. And so, they also just had a lawsuit. They lost a lawsuit in New Mexico that was $375 million. And then somehow that just got increased to something in 567 million or something like that. So I don't know. I wonder if they're going to end up actually paying any of it. Okay, so let's see. I'll look through our comments here. Who else do we have? Hello, everybody. Lots of people joining. So Alex Polito said, imagine that. It's all about the money. Absolutely. That's actually the thing. I enjoy the simplicity in that. If you choose to interact with a for-profit entity, you should assume nothing other than the fact that they will put profit above everything else. That is the only way a corporate entity can survive, is by being profitable. Now, the way they choose to go about that, it depends, right? But if we're going to interface our kids with a for-profit entity who is in the business of selling advertising, therefore that means they're in the business of manipulating, because that's what marketing is. And I don't mean that in like necessarily a negative way, but marketing is the practice of manipulation. That's not friendly for kids. So, I mean, on its face, there's a simplicity to it that that kids should not interface with an entity like that. And now we're learning why and what that means. And then Globetrotting from Brisbane said, in Australia, under 16s are banned from using social media. It's now a society issue where parents are now on board to govern it, not just the government. I'm guessing Meta would not introduce age limits. And then he said it's due to profit loss. Yeah, so actually the Australia thing, the government getting involved there is inappropriate, and it's a completely flawed premise, and it's not working. The numbers have barely shifted. The kids that were on social media before are still on social media. They didn't actually solve any problems. The thing is, it's not an age problem. It's an algorithm problem. And it's not a government problem. It's a family problem. And the tools already exist to manage these things. So earlier I was talking about Family Link. Somebody asked about Android, and we're talking about the parental controls Family Link, and the parental controls called Screen Time that are built into Apple devices. Those are free and effective and can be used to block the installation of apps like Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, and all the ones that, TikTok, all the ones we're familiar with that have addictive algorithms. So this is not a government problem. The government is not accountable to keep our kids safe. We are. And we already have the tools to do that. So the government getting involved often just makes things worse. For example, in 1998, the US passed a law called COPPA, C-O-P-P-A, the Children's Online Privacy and Protection Act. That law makes it so that if a company knows that they're dealing with children, that they become liable for the safety of those children. The phrasing in the law is called actual knowledge. If a company has actual knowledge that its users or its customers are under the age of 13, they take liability for the safety of those kids. What happened was, instead of making the internet safer, it made it much more dangerous. And it's one of the reasons why the internet is dangerous today, is because the government got involved in a place where it doesn't belong. And so now tech companies avoid knowing the age of their users, because if they have actual knowledge, they take liability. And they don't want liability. Nobody does. And so now it's just a game of avoiding liability. And in fact, the age verification laws, including the ones in Australia and most of the ones globally, are being funded by Meta because it helps them shift liability away from them, and in many cases towards the app store companies or towards the operating system companies. So it's a hot potato game of passing liability. It has nothing to do with keeping kids safe. And so we need to not get distracted by what the government is doing in these spaces and just take it upon ourselves to do the right thing. Okay, SSOMDAN said, this has happened in the UK too. It's well-intentioned, but the kids whose parents don't care will still have access. And those who were already looking after their kids will continue to do so, status quo. That's right. And that's the way it should be, because that is human nature. Some people will do stuff that we agree with, and some people won't. As long as we're not harming each other, that's fine. That's great, actually. People need to be able to do their own thing without anybody else trying to control them. I don't want anybody controlling me, and I don't want to control anybody else. And I definitely don't want the government controlling the way that I run my family, nor do I want them controlling the way that anybody runs their family. It's inappropriate at best. Okay, let's see. All right, Peter on Facebook said, we teach our kids to be safe on the playground, teach them to play fair on the field, but we fall short on teaching them to be safe and nice on the internet. We do. And I think there's a positive tide there. I think there's a lot of positive change happening. It's why I do what I do with Family IT Guy. It starts with us, right? So it's very easy for parents in the current age to take the internet for granted, because most of us, depending on your age, but most of us grew up with the internet. And people would say, like, well, I turned out fine, so how bad could it be? Well, it's way worse now than it was 10 or 20 years ago. The internet is a much more dangerous place for kids, especially with AI. So there's a lot of criminals that are using AI to target kids in really nasty ways. And it's, so yeah, it is something, because, until 2007, when the iPhone came out, that's when human parenting changed. When the internet got into people's pockets and got into kids' pockets and backpacks and bedrooms. Because prior to that point, for all of human history, parenting was generally the same. Now, all of a sudden, you have to be a tech expert to be a parent. And so that is not something that almost anybody's good at. I'm a tech expert and a parent, and I'm struggling with it. So I certainly have empathy for the other 6 billion of us that are connected to the internet. Supposedly a third of those are children, roughly 2 billion children on the internet. So yeah, it's a hard thing to figure out. There's a lot of opportunity for positive change. There's a lot of positive change that's already happening, and I think it's going to continue growing momentum. So I'm really optimistic about that. All right, let's see what else we have in the news today. A state judge in Santa Fe, New Mexico, just told Meta what Instagram has to look like for kids. No notifications overnight or during school. Like counts must be hidden, and a ceiling of about 3 hours a day or 90 hours a month. Judge Brian Beedsheed, I probably just messed up your name, Judge, I'm sorry, of the First Judicial District Court in Santa Fe, New Mexico, ordered Meta on August 6th to pay $567 million into a young people's mental health fund and to change the products themselves. For under 18 accounts, the order stops push notifications from 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. every day and from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. on school days. It hides like counts unless a parent turns them back on and caps use at 90 hours a month across Instagram and Facebook combined. It reaches New Mexico accounts only. The judge refused to touch the recommendation system on First Amendment and Section 230 grounds, and the 5-year compliance clock can pause while Meta appeals. Once again, nonsense. The government has no place in this. They're not even solving the problems. All they're going to do is make it worse. Any kid in New Mexico that has access to social media probably also has access to use a VPN, which immediately places their device outside of New Mexico and overcomes it all. And the state gets to allocate that $567 million, which means that the majority of it's going to be wasted. It's very disappointing. The fact that they're winning these lawsuits and then wasting the opportunity. All that money should either be given to the victims that the lawsuit was supposedly about and or used to fund education. Because the real answers here are education and community, not government. So the state of New Mexico is, maybe the attorney general wants to run for a higher political office and this is his big, his big win. Who knows? Another one. Children calling the UK's Childline helpline named TikTok specifically 1,781 times last year, about 5 times a day, and up more than a third on the year before. The NSPCC, which runs Childline, broke its counseling sessions down by platform for the first time, covering from April 2025 to March 2026. TikTok was top of the charts with 1,781 mentions, followed by Snapchat at 1,106, Instagram 569, Roblox 550, and YouTube 530, out of more than 5,500 app mentions in total. Some mentions were positive, a child using an app to calm down or manage a hard feeling, but most were described negative or described a harm. And because one session can name an app several times, the count measures mentions, not children. Interesting to see the order of things, because I often wonder, like, what's the actual, I kind of bag on Snapchat the hardest, but they're all terrible. And so I guess this particular helpline in the UK indicates that TikTok is leading the charts. Very interesting. All right, let's see here. What else do we have on? Welcome, everybody. All right, and then I've got some more comments on Facebook. What is the positive change you are seeing evolve? From Deanna. So Deanna, the positive change I'm seeing evolve is awareness and action. And that is parents investing more and knowing where to invest in their own healthy relationships with technology and in how they foster that healthy relationship for their kids and are leading by example. I get that anecdotally through my channels. And so through Family IT Guy, we're reaching out to sometimes millions of people a month, and we get thousands, sometimes tens of thousands of comments every month back, kind of get a feel for what's going on. I'm also in touch with a lot of child safety organizations, political organizations, law enforcement organizations, psychologists. And so I'm kind of getting a feel for what's going on. And people are waking up to the fact that this stuff is a problem. It in a way resembles the cigarette smoking epidemics that we've had in the past. If you compare cigarette smoking rates in the 60s to the 90s, they went down a lot. And it's because of a lot of education efforts, and then also because of a lot of taxes. And it's a very slow thing to change, but it is changing. I'm seeing a lot of positive change. Oh, did my camera turn off? What the heck? Let's try this again. Oh, I'm back. Okay. I guess my camera was off for a little bit there. I didn't notice. All right. And then Andrew on Facebook said, we talk about safety online like the safety of our home. We keep our doors and windows of our home locked and secure, even when we are at home. I liken any app or website where you can talk to someone else like an open window and anyone can come through. Yes. Yes, I think so. And especially imagine that your house was within arm's reach of everybody on the planet. I think there's roughly 8 billion people on Earth right now, 6 billion on the internet, where they could just reach through your window, all of them. And if you leave that window open, a bunch of them will. So, yeah, I think that's a good analogy. And then Peter said, I have been in internet and cyber for 30 years. Love your channel and happy to help if I ever can. Teach A+, Net+, and Sec+ to kids who may not have a chance to afford college. Oh, that's awesome. And thank you. I'll have to keep that in mind. That's it's really cool that you're teaching that stuff. That sounds fun. I like that. Okay, let's see. Let's scroll through their comments a bit and see what else we got. All right, so here's some more news stories. Okay, a Senate committee just advanced a bill about AI toys, the talking stuffed animals, plus one on companion chatbots. Both went through on a voice vote. I don't know what a voice vote is, but let's see. On August 5th, the Senate Commerce Committee advanced 4 kids' online safety measures by voice vote. The Kids Online Safety Act, the Youth AI Privacy Act, the Chatbot Act, and the Children's Artificial Intelligence Toy Safety Act of 2026. Well, that's quite a name. A 5th, the Screen Act on age verification for pornography sites, passed 15 to 13 on a party line roll call. But the committee's own notice says a re-vote will be needed to comport with Senate rules on in-person attendance. Clearing committee sends them to the full Senate, which is a separate fight and a separate vote. I wish these guys would just stay out of our business. We already have all the tools we need to affect lawsuits. AI is dangerous for kids. The government is not accountable for the safety of us as individuals, nor for our kids, nor do they have anything to do with our families at all. And I'm not excited about more laws that are probably going to do nothing but just make things worse. So I guess they're going to do a revote, and I hope that it doesn't pass. All right, here's the next one. Kids who opened their first social media account at 11 were about 6 months of schooling behind by 16. And what carried it was the checking, not the hours. Researchers at the University of Milano Bicocca, I think that must be in Italy, matched 5,227 students in northern Italy against national test scores collected at 4 points between ages 7 and 16. Published in Nature Human Behavior on August 3rd. Students who opened an account in 6th or 7th grade later scored lower in math and Italian than classmates who waited until 9th grade. And in math, the gap widened rather than closed. How often a student checked their phone at particular moments, before sleep, upon waking, or during homework, accounted for 1/3 to 1/2 of the math gap, while whether the phone carried parental controls explained very little. That's a confusing description. So if kids use social media instead of doing their homework, they will do worse in school. All right, seems logical enough. Makes sense to me. I mean, shoot, if they're doing anything other than homework when they're doing their homework, they'll do worse. But yeah, I mean, definitely social media should not be used by kids. So makes sense. Okay. Let's see what else we got here. Okay, next thing. Ohio's attorney general is suing Roblox, not over a child, but over money. Two state pension funds lost $21 million when Roblox started checking ages and its growth stopped. Oh, that I'm okay. Let's read on because this is interesting. My God. Attorney General Andy Wilson filed on Friday, August 7th, to lead a securities class action arguing Roblox misled investors by marketing itself as a safe place for children while failing to protect them from predators. The Ohio Public Employees Retirement System and the State Teachers Retirement System of Ohio lost a combined $21 million on the stock between October 2024 and April 2026. Wilson's argument is that the platform's growth stalled once regulatory pressure forced mandatory age verification and limits on adult to minor communication. He treats that drop as a measure of who was on it before. I don't even know. I mean, perhaps I'm in a skeptical mood today. I feel like I always am when it comes to this stuff. But so Ohio's attorney general is suing Roblox because the state of Ohio made bad investment decisions. Yes, Roblox misled investors and misled everybody, saying that their stuff was safe for kids. But if you're a savvy investor and they lost $21 million, which means that they invested way more than that, but just in Roblox, means that they didn't do any due diligence. All they'd have to do is play the game for an hour, register as a child, and see what they find, because that's what I did. I registered 2 accounts. I registered one as an 8-year-old child, and I registered one as my actual age as an adult so that I could test the parental control system and so that I could test the experience as a parent and as a child. And it was horrifying. It's one of the reasons I'm so anti-Roblox, because it was altogether terrible. There was sexual content, violent content, stuff on my 8-year-old profile with the parental controls turned up all the way. Everything I could switch was switched on. And so the state of Ohio invested potentially hundreds of millions of dollars, and nobody played the game? And shame on them in general, and also shame on them for investing in Roblox in the first place. The state of Ohio has just admitted that they are responsible for part of Roblox's financial success, which means that they're responsible in part for the harm that has occurred to children on Roblox. So maybe I'm missing something here, but isn't that ironic? They come out in public and try to blame Roblox when it's their own fault. All they had to do was play the game. Hundreds of millions of dollars, they couldn't buy a computer and log on to Roblox.com and play for an hour. Maybe they should fire their investment advisors. Maybe they should sue them. See if I missed anybody's comments here. Buyer beware, Peter. Indeed. All right, let's check out the next one. Oakland schools went bell to bell this week. The phones go into a magnetically locked pouch at the door, and no, you don't get it back at lunch. Oakland Unified School District in California, their ban took effect Monday, August 10th, when the school year began. Elementary students put phones in lockboxes. Middle and high schoolers carry Yonder pouches. I think those are the same pouches they give at like comedy shows and stuff. Fabric bags that lock magnetically and only open at a base station. The district estimates about $500,000 for pouches and boxes and deliberately included lunch and longer breaks. Its letter to parents said phone use can also slow the growth of social skills, with exceptions only for a health or safety emergency or when a teacher, administrator, or doctor authorizes it. Imagine getting a doctor to authorize cell phone use. Well, I mean, good on them for actually doing it. You know, I think it was last week or the week before I read a news article about I think it was the state of Illinois did some BS law that they didn't even enforce, where they're supposedly banning phones from schools, but then there's no penalties, there's no suspension, there's no nothing if anybody violates it, which means that there is no ban. So Oakland Unified School District actually banned it. Good on them. Cost them $500,000. I wonder what the cost per kid is. And I wonder if they tried the simple route first of, do we need pouches, or can we just say that if you're seen holding your phone, it'll get taken away? But hey, whatever works. And I like that they don't get it back at lunch. I like that they don't get it back at breaks. I think where the government can help is in stuff like this, where if a kid is at a government school, the government school should at least create an environment that isn't fostering unhealthy behavior, like using a phone, using the internet more specifically. So cool. I think overall that's great. Okay, so Hilda Bonnie on Instagram said, when should a kid get a cell phone, and should it just be a basic phone? Yes. Less is more. Here's the way I like to look at it. And I just had this conversation with my 11-year-old a couple weekends ago, because he was asking me, like, when do you think I'll be responsible enough to get a phone? And he specifically just phrased it as a phone. And I said, well, first of all, you already have a phone in your watch, because he has an Apple Watch with a cellular phone in it. And he went on to describe, of course, that he was talking about a smartphone with internet and apps and all that kind of stuff. And I said, well, it's based on need. An internet connected smartphone is full of an enormous number of capabilities. I think that you should only provide the capabilities that are required, that are needed, not desired or wanted, but required or needed. So the ability to make and receive phone calls, ideally in a way that's filtered so that they can only make and receive phone calls to a pre-approved list that's defined by the parents. Perhaps the ability to send and receive text messages, also filtered by the parents. Past that, navigation, location tracking, maybe a medical app like the Red Cross app, if it's a phone that can run that. So I think if it's a lot of times parents will tell me that they want to get their kids a phone for emergencies. Hey, they're away from the home. I would like them to be able to get in touch, or to be able to get in touch with them. Get them the least capable device you can possibly get them. I look at it as 4 potential options, and I would probably go in the following order, depending on budget. So I won't order these by budget, because everybody's budget is different. So I'll just order based on capability. I would first look at a smartwatch, because it's a lot harder to lose, because you wear it. And so it's much less likely to get left somewhere. So either an Apple Watch, or like Bark just came out with a new version of their watch. I'm going to review that soon. I've got an Apple Watch for my kid. It's great. And he can Bluetooth music to a Bluetooth speaker from his watch. It's locked down as to who he can call and text. He has navigation. I can see his location. I give him access where he can see my location, which is optional. That's option number 1. Option number 2, I would look at a thing called a light phone. So it doesn't have parental controls, but it doesn't really need them, because its capabilities are limited. And so it's like if you were to take a dumb phone and then add like maps and music to it. So I like the light phone. I would look at a dumb phone like a regular, just Nokia, T9 keypad, old school phone. The batteries last forever. Like you can run the things for like a week and they won't die. Um, and then if there's a need for more, and again, that's, I would really assess it as a need. Then I might look at, is there a need for some kind of app or some kind of internet or something, which, I mean, it's rarely the case. But if it is, then look at like a Bark phone. Bark phones are tamper proof, really easy to set up, great devices. I've reviewed them. If you go to my website, familyitguy.com, and you type in Bark in the search box, you'll see my review. I like them. And also an iPhone. Like if you're an Apple family, you can run an iPhone and you can lock it down tight. So I'd kind of go in that order, but I would just go based on need. I wouldn't go based on desire. I wouldn't go based on what everybody else is doing. I would try to get one with no internet if you can get away with it. The internet is not for kids. The internet is made for adults. The internet is not for kids. And try to see if you can get something without a camera. Cameras are the primary vector for sextortion, and cameras should not be internet connected for kids. So I hope that helps. All right, let's see what else we got here. There is only one. Jen said, thank you. This list of phones is really helpful. I like the idea of the smartwatch over a phone to start with. You're welcome. Yeah. Yeah, me too. It's kind of cool. My kid's had his for like 5 years, and it's awesome. He actually lost one of them. Remember, I said they're harder to lose, but not impossible. He did lose an Apple Watch, and that was a bummer. But he's had his current one for a while, and yeah, Hilda Bonnie, you're welcome. All right, let's see here. So Peter asked if I have a live schedule. Generally, yes. I do Wednesdays at 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern U.S. time. Today I started like half an hour late because I had a meeting that went long. But Peter said, could have blocked cellular for $30 on a Raspberry Pi, savings of $499,970. Right. Peter, I think that you should consult with the Oakland Unified School District and perhaps other school districts that have not yet spent $500,000 on pouches. And I wonder, by the way, because you have to wonder, did the company, like the Yonder company that makes those pouches, did they help encourage these safety programs? And hey, if they did, like, hey, it worked out, so whatever, but you know how it goes. Andrew on Facebook said, at my son's school district, they take the phones if they are seen using them and will only return them to a parent at the end of the day. Awesome. I love that. I mean, you gotta have consequences. Otherwise, don't have a rule, right? So I like that they're enforcing it. And then Peter said that Commodore has new/old phones coming soon. Old flip phones with 4 basic apps, no social media. Oh, that's cool. I'm gonna look that up. And from Commodore, that's fun. Man, that's a throwback. Thanks, Peter. That's a good one. Okay, and then Jamie Zhang said, thank you for sharing. We'll look at Smartwatch 2. You're welcome. Hilda Bonnie said, how do you teach them internet safety without exposing them to it? It's a great question. So the way that I think about that is in highlighting your own struggles. So, look at your screen time report on your phone and see how much time do you spend every day or every week on a platform that's algorithmic. So a platform with a bottomless feed where you can scroll and scroll and scroll, never stops, right? Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, YouTube, so on. Look at the amount of time spent per week and then think about that in terms of extrapolate that over a month and a year and 10 years in your lifetime. What percentage of your life was given to a marketing algorithm? And then show that number to your kids and tell them what you've just learned and tell them what you think about it. Tell them what you think that means for your mental health and for your happiness and for your personal freedom as a human. And if you're able to, if you desire to and are able to reduce whatever number you find, you can then tell your kids why you're doing that. And you can replace the time on those platforms with time with them or with time on yourself or some kind of valuable activity that isn't giving your time and attention to an addictive algorithm. And just bring them on the journey. Keep them up to date. Show them from week to week or month to month, like, hey, this week my number went up. And here's how I feel about that. And I'm not perfect. And I screw up just like everybody, just like you will too. And I'm going to try harder next week. And then next week, maybe the number goes down. You show them like, wow, that was really hard to do. Here's what it took to do that. I had to leave my phone in the drawer instead of carrying it with me to the bathroom. I had to leave my phone in the backseat of the car while driving to the grocery store instead of putting it up on the dash. I had to not bring my phone into the grocery store. Maybe I had to write my shopping list on paper. I had to do all these things. I had to go out of my way to escape the algorithm. And I think that's how you expose kids to the internet without them actually using it themselves, because then they learn that what the internet really is for consumers, because there's a business internet and there's a consumer internet. The consumer internet, the one that we use generally, the most of us, is primarily for marketing. If you could measure all the bits of data, all the bits and bytes that flow across the internet, and you could account for which percentage of those are related to marketing in some way, it would be, in my just made up number, probably well over 90%. Because even if you're using email, like if you use Gmail, it's marketing related because Google is a marketing company. Gmail exists so that Google can study you so that they can sell more ads. If you use Google Search, that's marketing related. That's a marketing platform. If you use any of the social media programs, all these things, these are all marketing related. And so helping your kids understand that and like what that means, because like I was mentioning earlier, marketing is by definition manipulation. It doesn't have to be evil manipulation, but it's manipulation. And kids are really easy to manipulate because they are inexperienced as humans. And so kids should not be exposed to marketing, ideally, AKA not be exposed to the internet. Like, my opinion is that's what it comes down to. Like, for me, it's not about screen time. It's not about just the internet as the internet. It's about marketing exposure time. So teaching your kids the concept of marketing exposure time and basically avoiding the practice of manipulation by strangers is a healthy thing. And so I think, talk to them about that and walk them through those concepts. And check out some of my videos too, where I talk about these things in case you want to dig deeper. Mammy Earth said, thank you so much. I'll definitely go onto your website and have a look. You're welcome. Hope you find what you're looking for. Jean Depies said, thank you, sir, for sharing your wisdom with us. You're making an impact in my family. That's very beautiful. Thank you for saying that. And I'm just so grateful I get to do what I do and to help in any way that I can. Hilda Bonnie said, you said the internet is for adults, which I agree, but how do you prepare them so they aren't like Bambi when they get access? Oh yeah, I guess I already responded to that part. CLU to 17 said, thank you for what you do. I greatly appreciate it. You're very welcome. Half-Baked Tardis said, hi, Ben. Hello. Hello again. And then CL Yuta said, I can't join your live all the time. Do you have a recording that I can watch when I'm available? Yes. All the recordings of my lives are published on my YouTube. And then, in fact, the stream goes to YouTube first and then also goes to Facebook and Instagram. And so for anybody that's watching this that wants to watch all of them, just go to my YouTube. I have a playlist for live streams, so you can see each week's live stream. And then I take clips from the live streams. So when I answer questions or when I talk about news articles, and I put those together and I share them on my social media and I share them on my YouTube. And so, yeah, check out my YouTube. And then Stop and Drain said Meta glasses are going to be the next social problem. And Hilda Bonnie said Meta glasses scare me too. Absolutely. So it blows my mind, because imagine you have an evil company like Meta that knowingly harms children, who, based on their business model of selling ads, is in a digital environment, must function as a surveillance entity. And then they sell glasses with cameras built into them that people choose to buy and wear so that Meta can surveil the world. No thanks. And I think it's, honestly, like, I think it's rude to wear Meta glasses in public. If you want to wear them around your family and you're not filming other people, do your thing. But to surveil strangers on behalf of Meta is wrong. I'm happy to consider this otherwise if anybody has any alternate points of view. But that's my initial reaction to this stuff. I think it's extremely inappropriate to wear those things around anybody that hasn't explicitly said that they're okay with you filming them, let alone uploading the video to Meta, which is going to instantly face scan everybody. Like Google and Meta and other companies like them, and I know this on secondhand knowledge, because I've had friends and colleagues that have worked on these products directly, not Meta glasses, but some of the photo analysis products that these companies run, both at Google and at Facebook, who have told me that, and this was like 15 years ago, Google would analyze photos and see who's in them, what they're wearing, what they're holding, where they are, where they were the moment before, build a whole breadcrumb trail that follows them around the world. So anytime your face or anything that can identify you is given to a surveillance company like Meta, they're going to use it. And you are going to be surveilled whether you like it or not. And that is not cool. So I think you're right. "1984 was a warning, not a guidebook." Look what I have within arm's reach. I just got this copy, 1984. You know what's interesting is that George Orwell underestimated how bad it would get, because the scenarios that he describes are better than what we have now. So like the couple, the romantic interest in the story, they have to escape to the woods so that they can actually speak openly, so they can actually have privacy, aka freedom. You can't even do that now. You can be surveilled on any point of the earth at any time, no matter what. So the book was actually underestimated the potential for the problem. And yeah, that's a good one. Mammy Earth said, "It's really been the most inspiring and deeply supportive live I was lucky enough to be able to jump onto. Everything you said made sense totally. I'm so grateful for your clarity." Thank you. That's very kind. And I'm glad you got to join too. And I hope you get to join again in the future. I hope you have a wonderful day. Okay, so let's see. Oh, Hilda Bonnie said, "How I was convinced not to share my kid online was when I was pregnant. I did a test. I had a girl on my Facebook I knew in high school and knew very little about her. Just, oh shoot, did my camera just shut off again? What in the world?" Darn. Let me switch my camera and see what happens. Okay, I'm back. I don't know why that keeps happening. I mean, you'd think I would need to call tech support, but I'm tech support, so here I am. Hilda Bonnie, your comment, I only got part of your comment about the thing about being convinced not to share your kid online. Curious to hear the rest of that, if you don't mind. Kind of, I don't know if you have to paste it into multiple comments. It limits how much text you can write, apparently. Oh, I was clicking the camera button. That was my fault. I was turning my camera off. I didn't even know it. Oh, shoot. Peter said, I'm glad I found you live. We'll try to join again in the future. Have a great night. Thank you, Peter. You too. Hope to see you again. Andrea said, I have set parental controls on my own phone so that I cannot access social media after 10 p.m. This protects my sleep. My husband holds the password for me so that I can't cheat. That's a great idea. I love the concept of having an accountability partner like that. I actually do that for a young man that I'm mentoring. He wanted to reduce some of the ways that he used his phone, and he gave me explicit permission to put a passcode that only I know onto his screen time passcode on his iPhone and lock down some of his stuff. And the only way he can unlock it, and we live about 20, 30 minutes from each other, would be we'd have to get together in person and have to put my passcode in. So that's a cool idea to do that with your spouse or your partner. And because you can't cheat, because otherwise you just cheat, right? You just, whatever, I'll just overwrite it. But when you can't do it, there's a company that reminds me, there's a company called Brick, and I have one around here somewhere, but it's a little device that you put in your home and you tap your phone to it, and then it locks your phone down, and you can't unlock it without tapping it on the brick again. So like, if you're going to go to the park, or you're going to go, I don't know, you're going to go out and you want your phone to be in like a restricted mode where it's not a distraction, you tap it on the brick before you leave, and then you go, and then you can't unlock it. So that's kind of cool. Oh, Hilda Bonnie, you're saying you learned about your friends' kids through pictures and posts. Absolutely. You can learn everything about somebody by looking at what they post online. It doesn't take much. And then you have the timeline over time. You could stitch together an entire life, which is why those platforms let you post those pictures, because that's what they want. Steph is social. Hello, said, how to convince the PTA to make their account private. Isn't that great? That's a great question. How to convince a parent-teacher association to make their account private. First of all, it's insane that it's not to begin with, or it just means that they are either unaware of the risks, which are enormous, like they should not be sharing photos of kids on the internet, or they're aware of the risks and they just don't think they're worth managing. I think I would just highlight to them and maybe share with them some education on, hey, here's what happens when you post kids on the internet. I like a video that, oddly enough, T-Mobile in Germany posted a while back. They made a video about a young girl getting modified by AI, and then she's like, her AI version of herself is talking to her parents, and she's saying that she wished that they hadn't posted her photos online, even though they were just innocent and fun, because then they were getting used to bully her and harass her, and people were trying to get her to end her own life and do all this terrible stuff and use her information to scam her. I think one thing that I like to think about on this stuff is that one of our fundamental jobs as parents is to protect our kids' privacy and to realize that their privacy doesn't belong to us. Their privacy belongs to them, and we are stewards of their privacy. So I wonder if that would resonate at all with the PTA of like, you are violating the privacy of children. That's not appropriate. It's not okay. you can and very well may end up causing them harm at some point by doing so. And that if you want to share a photo of somebody publicly, because the internet is public, right? If you share somebody's photo on the internet, it is public, that you should get their permission first. And not the permission of the kid, but the permission of the parent, because the parent is the steward of their child's privacy, because children don't understand the value of privacy. So, otherwise, if not that, then simply directly having a friendly conversation with the PTA president and saying, "Hey, here's my concerns. Here's what I've learned about. Here's why I choose not to share my kid's photo on the internet. Can I please ask you to not share my kid's photo on the internet? If you want to share other kids' photos, whatever, but don't share my kid's photo. And if you ever desire to, please ask my permission first." I don't know. That's a good question. The secure dad is here. What's up? Hildebani said, "I'm not tech savvy, so imagine what someone who is can do." That's right. Half-Baked Tardis the Brick. Look up. Let me see what their web. I think it's GetBrick. .app or something. Let me check. Oh no, getbrick.com. Yeah, check out getbrick.com. Half-Baked Tardis said, "Can the parents get together and agree that nobody will give permission for their kids' images to be shared? If everyone says no, there's no kids to post pics of." Yeah, I mean, yes, absolutely. A great way to organize parents around these causes in general is there's an organization called Wait Until 8th. And the premise there is that it's a collective action thing where they have a form to fill out, and I have an example of it on my website, but also just go to their website, waituntil8th.org. You fill out like a form where you just agree, I'm not going to send my kid to school with a phone. And then everybody does it. And then when everybody agrees and they don't do it, it eliminates the social pressure problem. And then if you take a similar approach and now you have connection with all these other parents that are on the same journey, that would make it a lot easier too to come together and say, hey, let's also ask the school and the PTA and all these entities to like stop violating the privacy of our children. Because the schools themselves do it sometimes. And to be fair, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. They probably don't know how risky it is. And so let's tell them. And then Hildebani said, yeah, I think it should become basic social etiquette not to post pictures of anyone's kids without explicit permission. 100%. Totally agree. That is the way. And then Half-Baked Tardis said, over here we can opt out of allowing any school or org to post photos of our children. That's awesome. Jason Sokolowski, what's up, Jason? The fact is, most parents are not aware of the dangers, much less how dangerous social media is with their pics. Yeah, I think you're right. And then Steph is Social said, great ideas, thanks. I'm thinking it goes even farther since they are showing so many details of the school every day. Right? Because then they're also showing what school your kid goes to, which is just, that's dangerous. There are going to be families at a school that have real safety concerns from a privacy perspective. There could be parents that have split up. There could be people that are not really wanting others to know where they are. And then now you're just publicly exposing that permanently. Yeah. And then a lot of the schools too, like they'll post the names of the kids and stuff. Stop and Drain said, it's wild to me that people flagrantly posting their young children and other children on social platforms. A lot of people just have no awareness. Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, shoot, I have family members that, we've had to talk about posting my stuff on because I don't like to be. Now, granted, I do the family IT guy thing. I'm public, right? People know me. They know what I look like. They know my name. but I also don't want my family posting pictures of me online because then that could correlate to where I live. It could have my other family members in it, and they haven't consented to being a public part of the family IT guy world, nor do I intend them to be. And so, yeah, it's interesting. Um, all right, let's see what else we've got. We've got a couple more news things. Let me scroll through and see what we've got here. Huh. This is interesting. A 15-year study followed Scottish kids from infancy and found that total screen time didn't predict much of anything. 5 or more hours of gaming a day at age 15 did. Researchers at the University of Edinburgh and Imperial College London used the Growing Up in Scotland birth cohort, checking in at ages 5, 10, and 15, published in JAMA Network Open. Total daily screen use at 5 or 10 was not associated with above average emotional, behavioral, and social difficulties. Gaming 5 or more hours a day at 15 was. One result runs the other way and needs care. An hour or more of social media or messaging at 15 was associated with lower odds of difficulty. But the authors warn that may be reverse causation. Teenagers already doing well socially may simply be the ones using it. I'm going to need to read that study. First of all, screen time is not the right measure. It's what's on the screen. So I don't get it. And then the next one is similar, oddly enough. A dad on Reddit asked how much low quality screen time people allow a 14-year-old. The most common answer he got back was, I stopped counting. The post went up on r/parenting teenagers this week. He draws the line at video games, YouTube, TikTok, and social media, and says he's not worried about a regular slow-moving TV show or movie with a plot. His 14-year-old does well in school and plays sports, and spends everything else gaming and texting. Most replies said they gave up policing hours and judged by outcomes instead: grades, mood, and sleep. With one parent noting homework was not suddenly completed perfectly when screens were in another room, and the fight caused more tension than benefit. It's interesting. How much low quality screen time people would allow a 14-year-old. I guess it's like junk food. Like maybe that's what it's trying to, the correlation is like, well, it's like digital junk food. I think, again, it depends. Screen time is not the measure. It's marketing exposure time. Are you exposed to an addictive algorithm? And are you exposed to predators? Those are the two things. So screen time is an all-encompassing idea. You can have screen time without algorithms and without predators. There's lots of ways to do that. You could have like junk food, videos that are just nonsense, high stimulus, Coco Melon, not for a 14-year-old, but whatever the equivalent of that kind of garbage is. The question, though, it's such a good question. It's a question that really reflects the reality that people are dealing with. Is like, how much attention do I pay? How much does this matter? I think when it comes to addictive algorithms, there's no amount of time that's good. It is a net negative. That is an emotionally predatory environment. If you're exposed to anonymous chat systems, like the chat systems that are in a lot of games, the chat systems that are in all the social media platforms, that's where predators hunt for kids. If you can get rid of those two, you reduce the risks enormously. So yeah, that's my thoughts on that. It's a good question that guy's asking. It's very relatable. Let's check back in on the comments here. Okay, so Jason, a famous singer of a favorite band, was posting pics of his kids, but then posted nudes of his kids with emojis over their privates. The comments were split down the middle. My God. On Instagram, I messaged him and engaged to let everyone know this should not be happening. Yeah, nice work, man, because that's again, our children's privacy is not ours, it's theirs. Imagine them as an adult. Here's the test. Let's say your kid is 6 or 4 or 10 or 15, and you post something online about them, a picture of their private parts. It's crazy. If you ask them at age 30 or 20 or 25, imagine, hey, are you okay with me posting this of you? What do you think they would say? I don't know. They'd probably say no. Like, that's not, their privacy is not yours. Their privacy is theirs. So thank you, Jason, for speaking up on that. And then Jason said, I heard Discord and Roblox are partnering up or sharing now. Yeah, it seems like they've always been tied tight. The last thing that Roblox needs is more channels for anonymous communication. It's like they're trying to make the problem worse. It's good for engagement, and engagement makes money, which means that you shouldn't play Roblox. Hilda Bonnie said, I don't really have a problem with TV as long as it isn't junk and the majority of the day is spent away from it. Yeah. Oh, Starting Strength Columbus joined. I was wearing a Starting Strength Columbus on the live stream last week. So hello, friends. Hilda Bonnie said that Roblox makes me sick. My niece was a victim. Oh, man, I'm sorry to hear that. I hope she's okay. Stop and Drain said there should be a rule for online gaming. No chats or voice features with anyone you don't know well in real life. That's right. Totally agree. Very simple, very straightforward, very effective. Yeah, Jason said that Instagram should be flagging them. It's still up. Yes, they should. Damn. Half-Baked Artists. See you later. See you next time. All right, let's see what else we got in the news, and then probably do a couple more, and then end this one for today. Nearly 100 state bills want to protect kids from AI chatbots. And the most popular method is making every adult prove their age with an ID or a face scan. A report published August 10th by the Information Technology and Innovation Foundation, written by Alex Ambrose, counts nearly 100 state chatbot safety bills introduced so far this session. Its argument is that legislators are recycling the social media playbook: age verification, content restrictions, and blanket bans, which loads a privacy cost onto every adult without demonstrably protecting children. It recommends transparency, targeted safeguards aimed at documented harms, and workable parental controls instead, and warns a state-by-state patchwork is coming either way. Well said. It's actually, the face scan thing is potentially a privacy problem, and that by itself is problem enough. There's a couple things at play here. These age verification things don't solve the problem at all. Also, the problem is not the government's to solve because they're not accountable for the harm. If a kid gets harm, here's how can you think about it. If somebody gets hurt, who deals with it? If a kid gets hurt, who deals with it? The parents do. Does a senator come to your house and hug your kid and snuggle with them? And as odd as that sounds, I'm making a weird analogy here, but do they come around and make them feel better and pay for their hospital bills and their therapy and take them to school? No, of course not. The parents do. I always try to look at these things of, do they pass the accountability test? No, they do not. Furthermore, the moment you implement a system that lets the government say who can access which information in which systems and who cannot, that is censorship by definition. If you build a censorship system, regardless of the initial intentions, it will get used and it will get expanded upon. And we do not want to be building censorship systems for the government to use forever and ever that will never go away. That's a terrible idea. Yet, states are passing these bills and building censorship systems. And it sucks. Especially because it doesn't help. All it does is make things worse. Five elementary school teachers were asked what actually beats a screen. One of their answers: let the kid rebuild their favorite video game in the physical world. The Guardian ran an article on August 8th with 5 elementary teachers on what keeps children engaged in creative play. The suggestions are deliberately cheap: a pool noodle as a hurdle, sidewalk chalk for an obstacle course, a DIY escape room, and one whole section is about recreating a child's favorite video game offline. The framing is the useful part. Children who gravitate towards screens still crave creativity and imagination. And as the piece puts it, the magic isn't in the equipment. I mean, that's nice and all. I don't think it's very realistic, but it's fun. Cool idea. Hey, give it a shot. I think the magic is in the equipment in a bad way. These devices and these apps and these games are meant to be addictive. If you do it in the real world, there's no marketing engine behind it. There's no algorithm. There's no in-game purchases. You're just playing a game. I think better yet, play games that don't take advantage of you. Play games that are not internet connected. And yes, absolutely play games in the physical, of course. Like, that's the primary. If you can choose between playing a game in the physical world versus on a screen, do the physical one. And here's the last one I've got on my list. The UN, the United Nations, published a brief this week arguing the harm kids meet online isn't an accident, it's the business model. Published August 10th, ahead of International Youth Day, the brief notes that more than 8 in 10 people aged 15 to 24 worldwide are now online, and that in low-income countries, young people outpace the rest of the population by nearly 2 to 1. Oh, that's interesting. Its argument is that the disinformation, harassment, algorithmic bias, and malicious AI young people run into are the product of business models that monetize attention and personal data, plus deliberate design choices. It follows Secretary General Antonio Guterres calling in July for an AI child safety pledge. No child should be a guinea pig for unregulated AI. When a child is harmed, the answer must never be the algorithm did it. Okay, I mean, my first thought is that the UN is saying that they don't want these platforms providing disinformation and bias, but that's what the UN uses these platforms for also. And they say no child should be a guinea pig for unregulated AI, aka they want to regulate AI. Let's not. Let's not have the government decide how our systems should work. That never goes well. Hilda Bonnie said, why is Roblox still able to run? I remember when MSN Chats was shut down because it became too much of a PDF playground. I think, ironically enough, I think that there's no reason why it shouldn't be able to run, because the world is full of good and bad stuff. I think that you can see the market responding to Roblox's moves. Thus, the whole thing about the state of Ohio trying to sue Roblox because they invested in Roblox and lost $21 million. It's the way that Roblox goes away is simply just in your home, because it doesn't matter if anybody else plays it. It only matters if you and your kids do. And if entities like the state of Ohio would stop investing hundreds of millions of dollars into evil companies like Roblox, so I think we, in order to understand good versus bad, we have to have examples. And Roblox is a really good example of bad. And they are the shining brown star of bad. And then we can look to them and say, okay, that's what we don't want. And then we can look to other things and say, that's what we do want. And so it's good to have that contrast. And it's good to make our own informed decisions on these situations. And then Stop and Drain said, you can already see how these censorship systems on China's internet. Yeah. And you see a bunch of the downstream effects to where they have digital IDs, they have a social credit system, depending on the city and the region and stuff. And you can be prevented from buying food, taking public transit, even leaving the city that you live in based on what you do on the internet. And yeah, we don't want that. Shagird said, spread the word, gentlemen. Our voices are threatening the tech companies, and that's why they're targeting the developing world. I mean, yes, we spread the word, absolutely. And I think they're targeting the developing world because it's profitable. It's very profitable. And so that's, yes. And more outdoor time for our children. That's right. And you also said, I feel bad for the kids in foster care and the ones being neglected by their biological parents. Hilda Bonnie said, really, states invested in it. I wonder to what end. Yeah, I was reading a news article earlier about the state of Ohio. Their the state pension invested in Roblox. And they said they lost 21 million, which implies that they invested quite a bit more than that. And if you look at Roblox's stock charts, you can see the impact. The stock charts are going down, and it's great. Okay, so I think that's it for today. I appreciate everybody joining. Thank you for your time. See you next Wednesday.